This is a test video for a potential Gundam model review. There's plenty of people out there doing Gundam model reviews, and well, I have a lot of Gundams. So I thought that I would test the feasibility of having a YouTube video and just kind of seeing how things go with that. The reason why I picked this model in particular is because the Exia is an amazing looking model, but it has its fair share of known issues. So I thought that it might be good that maybe someone could look at this video and figure out whether or not they want to invest their time or money in Gundam Exia. Some of the small retcons they've made to the model are the rainbow GN cables. I think I have that right. They go through the forehead. The camera is barely doing it any justice, but you might be able to see that there is a very subtle rainbow-like reflection effect going on that I thought was a very cool and very easy to implement modification to the original Exia to give more emphasis to the fact that the earlier models had GN cables earlier on in the series. As you can see, there is a double riser, and we'll just call that a pre-built state there. There is a LED kit that I believe comes with this unit. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong about that, but I'm fairly sure I'm right because it's the ignition version. On the double riser, the head lights up. On Exia, it does not. So if you were accustomed to the head glowing on a double riser, and you had that model first, as I did, then you can expect something different from that here. The head will not light up, nor will the side. We have the GN antennas here. Blink. And these are very sensitive, so be very careful whenever you're installing these. And of course, we have the LED here. As well known, it does say something. It says Celestial Being GN blah blah blah, whatever Exia is. I decided to go ahead and go with stickers on this model because I just wanted to get it done. You know, I can be an impatient builder sometimes. Sorry for shaky hands there, as you can see there. The sticker says Gundam Exia, whereas in the TV show, there was a fine engrainment in the triangle spot right there in the TV show. So I think that might be another small design modification that they made. Plus it, you know, makes it easier for them to not have to worry about including that detail. Anyway, and then of course we have the GN cables on the side as seen in the TV show, which also have the same reflective kind of effect here. I don't know how that's produced, but I think it's a very cool thing in a very cool way. This cable is mostly in by pressure. So the pressure between the side and the way this slots down into the area here, it is held in there with some pressure, so it might be a little bit tricky to get it in there at first. I thought that was a very good way to change the way that the model looks on some of the, you know, some of the easier to pull off effects they put a little bit extra effort into. On the side here, we have the GN shield, which I think has some also slight modification improvements. I think that the Perfect Grade went ahead and took these model improvements into account. The shield separates. I am doing this on my phone, so there we go on that. And if you wanted to, you could paint the inside details and the cracks in between if you liked. There is area opportunity for panel lining, as seen on the blue areas. So we have some very strong lines there and some very good part separation there for some pre-built shading that I thought was very cool. The shield is connected right here at the forearm, and it is a very, very stable connection. There is a traditional, if you've looked at some of the earlier Universal Century main timeline Gundam models, they have the circular clamp. This has an added effect because the hole in the forearm actually has an insert, and it makes very good use of this. So it is really primarily held in by this, and I thought this was a very good way to be consistent with the story material, the immersion, and also make it very functional in the actual model, so that detail about Exia felt very real in the way that it was implemented in the actual model. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. So on the inside of the shield, since we're on the shield right now, we have some good areas for panel lining opportunity on the inside as well. And just now noticing there is a very good side part indentation there that I just now noticed, and I thought was a very fine touch. As you can see, there's some potential there for num marks there that need to be cleaned up. And as anytime as you're dealing with blue, there will be some cleanup for num marks. This being a primarily white unit, should be very, very simple on the cleanup when it comes to that. Moving to the chest, we have some very good side detail. Right here that I think is very good. The shoulder area here, or the connecting chest piece area, I don't know what you really want to call that because it's quite unique, that actually folds out, and I thought that was a very, very cool kind of gimmick that they were able to pull off in the construction of the unit, which I'll go into detail here in a moment. And we have some part separation here on the very top part of the chest, as well as right here. We have some area for panel line opportunity as well. A little nut mark right there. And as you can see, it will mark on that blue. And then here we have the LED there showing the details. The LED is normally very bright. Mine is currently faded right now due to a connection that is loose. I'm generally aware of how to resolve that issue, so I will be going back in there and making sure that the battery is seated properly, and I will test with some other newer batteries to make sure that it's just not my batteries going dead. I'll make a separate video about that. I just haven't lit this up in a while, so I'm not too concerned about it. Once again, I am doing this on my phone, and this is a test video. So if you have any, feedback or areas of opportunities that you think for a potential further review, I'll be more than happy to see what anyone out there would like to see from up-close reviews. I think that a lot of reviewers that are out there could really show more up-close detail. Those are the things I'm very curious about. This is the kind of opening gimmick that I was referring to a moment ago. And I don't see a lot of reviews in here on that. Whether there's a numbark right there, and on the green, there's that as well. Once again, this was kind of like a speed build. I like Exia, I don't love Exia, so it was slap it together and get it done. There are plenty of areas of opportunities here. So we have lots of circular indentions and lines. The inside is folded out here by a connection that I believe is, as I recall, is connected to the shoulder bone, kind of. And I thought that was a very cool gimmick. The antennas do go up and down, so if you want to have that in a type of storage mode, you could do that as well. And as usual, on most master grades, you do have a interior cockpit gimmick that I felt was very accurate to the source material. I'd like to also point out that there's some nice little details right here in the actual lining right here that I really like a lot. Lining. And then on the inside as well. And on top of that, we even have a little kind of like a walkway or a walk area for a pilot to come out of right here. So I thought that that was very amazing that that was right there. They could have just left that as a little hole, so they're able to use that to connect the actual model into the base and pull off having a footwalk area at the same time, because that's also how it's connected in there. So Bandai's been doing this for a while. They're pretty good at that, and I really like that little detail there, as that could have completely been an empty hole. And I just want to let everyone have an opportunity, if anyone is actually watching this, to see in slow motion what can be, you know, I want you to believe like you can actually see this thing as much as possible. I'm going to go ahead and close that up now. Moving to the skirt armor. This is on a ball joint right here, as you can see, and it does allow very good free movement of the legs here. So the chest is, the skirt armor here is very small for Exia. That's part of its in-canon design, but it also works very well for the model itself. And there's very little interference here when it comes to the leg moving up or down. So those are on ball joints, and they are separated ball joints, as you saw. So you can move each joint independently, or each shoulder, Jesus, it is a skirt individually if you want. Moving away from his crotch and to his legs, we have the ribbon effect here, which I think is good. It makes me feel like that there's GN particles actually flowing through this unit, and this is something that carried on to the Perfect Grade Gundam Exia. I don't know which one was for the first one. I don't know if the egg was first or if the chicken was first when it came to that, but I think this is a very good detail that Bandai has implemented to give it more of a modern design. These kits are becoming a little bit older, and they still do hold up to today's standards. When I built this, I felt like I was building a up-to-date, brand new Master Grade. I did not feel like there were any out-of-date awareness or anything like that. So they definitely did put a lot of time and money into this. And as it's generally understood, I think the target audience for this were individuals who had watched Gundam Wing before. So I think they had planned already ahead of time that certain models were going to be carrying the show in a very high quality sense. On the hips here, these are areas where it will actually hold the GN katars, the GN swords, and the reason why there's nothing there is because this is one of the areas of opportunity for this kit. This area does fall out. As you can see here, this area slides out from the hip. And, you know, this circular area here, which is the cover for it, also slides out. So you have to almost pull on that to get that to come out. And yet at the same time, that's not even really in there. So you might need to glue that, which I thought was very, very strange. The same mechanism in which you need to pull that out also disassembles it. So things like that really irk me a lot. Anything that's like that irks me a lot with any kind of tool. And the way that connects in there is by a peg that is on the center there, looking almost like a trigger finger, but it's not. And that is how it sits in there. So it kind of sits flush in there and hangs to the side. But to really get it like that, you have the potential of popping that circular piece out. So it could pop out, and it would cause your GN Katara, GN Shield just to be laying on the ground like that. So that is a very kind of hand grenade-y aspect of this kit that you should be aware of. This is what it looks like when it's fallen off there. At some point, you know, you kind of get sick of it and you just kind of don't care. I wanted to display it with all of the 7 swords sticking outward, but those things would always come out, so I might need to see the feasibility of gluing it right there to prevent that from happening, so they could be pulled out without the circular part coming out, which will usually result in your sword sitting somewhere nearby Exia like this, or in a Ziploc bag if you choose not to glue it. Speaking of, this would be a good opportunity to take a look at the back part of Exia. So we're going to take a look at Exia's butt and see what he has to offer on this. You have the GN beam sabers, which is nothing new to any Gundam, so it's almost not even worth talking about. They are articulated though, however. Hopefully I won't knock over Exia in the process of doing this. That way you can have Exia reaching backwards and grabbing it, and it'll fold forward, and you can do that, and that's part of the 7 sword system, I believe. I'm not the massivist Exia fan. Is massivist a word? But I do believe it counts as part of the 7 sword system. So on the back here, you have the GN beam swords, and that is just a lot of swords, and that's very cool. One thing to note here is on these shoulders, these things are articulated, and I believe they can move forwards and backwards. I'm sorry, not forwards and backwards, but rather up and down. But they don't move outwards the way that the bottom ones do. So this connection here is a swivel joint, or I'm sorry, a swivel it's just an area that's inserted. It goes up and down. There's nothing really special here, and unless it's just my own particular model, it's held in there generally by just friction. So on this side, it tends to droop down. On this side, I have a little bit more resistance, and that's probably due to the skill of the builder, which I do not claim to be any expert of any sort on. I would prefer to have them poking out all backwards like that, with the swords hanging backwards from the side. That's the main reason I bought that model. But you really have to work with this kit in terms of some of the areas that are loose there. Other than that, the skirt is individually articulated as it was on the front. And there's Exia trying to fall over forward, because I'm also doing this on my phone because I need to test to see if anyone will even see this video. So you'll have to forgive some very common mistakes here I'm making on my video. I just wanted to know, does anyone out there like this type of review where you can see the detail? If so, you know, and people are watching this, then great. Moving to the legs, there's amazing articulation here, and there's great detail. So part of the detail here can be seen here on the back of the thigh, which I thought was a very good added touch. And that has good area for panel line opportunities, or you can maybe do some off coloring there if you wanted to. On the side, the leg will actually split open, and I think this is carried over to the MG Dynamis as well. And I think that Exia's frame might have actually gone on to be the grandfather of future MG frames. At the time of this video, Master Grade Dynamis videos were just starting to come out. So I think the Dynamis has taken a lot from the GN frame, has been seen on very many runners now. Even inside of the leg here, you have areas of panel line opportunity, or you can even paint that if you wanted to make that look like a GN line there. You can maybe even do that. So that could be very cool. Then on the side, we have the GN condensers. These do not light up, even though they look like they might. Just thought I would point that out there to someone who didn't already know that. It looks very circular, like it could support that, but it does not. Inside there, you might not be able to see very well, but you can see text in there and it's overlaying. There is a sticker on the inside that says Exia GN001, and the circle around the outside there in Canon tells you whether or not Exia's GN energy is up to par in that area of the suit, so that another suit can take a glance at Exia and see the status of Exia's GN drive. So a lot of people, I don't think really know that. That's what the purpose of that is for, is so that Celestial Being members can take a glance at Exia and know what the status is of the GN condenser in that area and / or the rest of the unit. I don't know if it goes that specific, but that is what that purpose is for. The overlaying plastic allows a kind of like an overlay there, so you can see the sticker on the inside, and you can see the grafting on the inside of the actual plastic there. So if you install this, make sure you get the right thing going on there. Make sure you get the sticker in the right area. Otherwise, you'll have a very obvious mismatch inside of there. And it's a very easy mistake to make if you're choosing to use a sticker in that area. Moving to his cows, Exia does not skip leg day. We have some very nice, those aren't cows, whatever you want to call them. This is a separate part, a single part that clicks into the back of here. There's no articulation in it, but it does have great detail. And on the actual calves, we have good detail here in terms of what we see here on the lining here. Good area for panel lines. Moving to the front of the legs, the insides do not have that same green area on the inside of the kit. And the separation that you were seeing here are areas where the kit bends. And of course we have the very nice rainbow GN cabling effect there, which I think helps immersion. And then we have the skirt armor there, the foot armor, or whatever you want to call it, protecting the actual feet that is articulated. At this point, I want to draw your attention to the areas of detail on the leg. These are the areas where the leg will actually separate outward here. I thought that was very cool. There is that separation there in the thigh that you can see going on there. And we have excellent articulation here in terms of what the leg can do. There's the skirting protecting armor coming up there. And as you can tell, a lot of these are, a lot of the newer kits aren't so bad about this, but there are panel line opportunities, and there are also a lot of nub marks that need to be grinded down. So that's something to definitely consider. We have a usual ball joint on the inside of the feet there, which I will talk about you to in a minute, because the feet are of particular interest on this unit, because they're quite unique. Little reminder, I'm doing this on my phone, so it's a test video. So some things to note are that I know this video is running long. All right, so on the bottom of the feet there, we have the usual articulation for, if you're on a moon or something, that's like kind of like your brakes on there. Okay, moving to the actual feet on Exia. Actually, my attempts at getting it to stand are one of the main issues to be discussed about this unit. Okay. You might find your Exia in this position quite often. The reason why is because the feet are known to kind of have a little bit of a struggle. So I'm not sure if this was a very intentional thing on Bandai's part, or if someone was just being lazy in the design of the kit. But as you can see here, the feet are just, it's like they intended to have articulation here, but that it just didn't quite play out. So you can see the back of the ball of the foot can move, and the tip toe of the foot can move, which is usually a welcome thing. But if you see here, there's a little bit of a bounce back, and there is a rubber piece inside of there that is held on in a very kind of, I felt, slapstick type of fashion that kind of got the foot together, but it just really felt kind of like a duct tape sort of application. I would disassemble it and show you that, but you know, I just really don't want to have any issues with this feet. It's well known that you should have an action base with Gundam Exia, and I don't quite remember whether or not Ignition Mode Exia comes with an action base or not. So that would be something that you would need to verify, or if I make a version 2 of this review, then I will update this video, show you more details, and so on and so forth. That will better go into detail about that, and I'll disassemble and show you further details after I see what this test video will be like. So the feet here are really going to have a struggle, so and yes, I know my hand just got in the way of that. So when you put the feet down, it's almost like it wants to grip the ground, but it can't because the rubbering on the inside, I'm not sure what kind of plastic they call that. I don't know if that's poly whatever, but it's definitely flexible. It's that flexible kind of plastic. So, and I wanted you to be able to see here that it's not really touching the ground in a way that would be conducive for it to sit straight or stand straight rather. So that is a large part of the issue. I'm sure there's many molders that are more advanced than I am that have resolved this issue, maybe with glue, maybe they've somehow strengthened that. But as you can see here, this is the thing to know about Exia. This is why they mention about the feet, because it's barely sitting flat, and that's what caused it to go forward. And there's also a articulation there that helps it to fall forward when that happens. So the own weight of Exia will pull it forward on gravity, and Exia will go crashing to the ground. So that's a very kind of disappointing thing that you wouldn't hope to see from a ground combat oriented in-cannon, unit like that. And, as you can see here, I just got to have my beam sabers poking out. It's just, that's the whole point of the Seven Sword system there. And even those areas are questionable about how well they will stand. So that beam saber already came back down. And the feet here are doing their best to stay level foot. So action base, almost a requirement for this unit. Moving to the back articulation here, just whatever I see. I just want to see who's going to see this video. Moving to the back articulation. We have the clamps that come undone. This reminds me of the, hopefully everyone's seen Gundam 00 by now, but these do unclamp, and there's a type of burst mode that can occur with this that was near the end of the show. And it's also the clamps that hold the drive in place. There is a metallic piece that is underneath the LED transparency there that gives you that effect that there's a spinning coil there, as it's supposed to be in the show. And I do like the articulation of where the clamps are supposed to sit down at. I thought it was very good. They could have left that as just like a blank canvas there, and they chose to articulate it there, which I thought was great. There's I'm not really sure what this is, if it's a thruster, that triangular area on top there. But I think that's a very nice added touch. Once again, I'm not sure what its purpose is for. My Gundam 00 lore is aging upon me, as it's a 10-year-old show. As you can see here, the GN drive does remove. I think that a lot of people know that now. And it is a different color on the inside than it is on the outside, obviously. So if you wanted to paint that, you could. And there's plenty of panel lining opportunities, and the nut marks will show on that dark gray plastic. There's actually a base that comes with this unit for holding the GN drive as if it was kind of like being serviced or if it was being installed on the unit, that I don't have with me right now because I didn't take it off the runner. I'm not a very big person when it comes to the little display gimmicks. This takes 2 LEDs. There's one that faces forward and there's one that faces backwards. So these are 2 LEDs accomplishing that right now. The ones I'm using are the Bandai ones. And I understand that there are some third-party kits out there available that are just a couple of bucks out there that you can use as a substitute. But I had the Bandai ones around from Double Riser, so that's what I used here. I think the batteries are going dead on it. And there are ways to display this as sitting up forward, as in a a GN drive reveal video. I think there's a stand in there that allows you to display it up sitting forward like that. I'm not certain if that's on the Master Grade GN whatever, GNX, or if that was included with Exia, but that is the purpose beyond the cone-like fashion and the spinning part. I think there is actually a stand for that. At least for it to sit like that, there is one that I do remember. There is one for the Master Grade Jinx that I think allows you to sit it up like that if you wanted to display it as the cones as seen near the end of Gundam 00 Season 1. On the inside, obviously, it's fairly hollow. There's a little bit of, some detail in there, but I'm surprised that they even put that in there. There are some lines in there that you could... if you wanted to paint the inside of this, I suppose you could, as long as you didn't paint the part where the LED is supposed to shine through. So I think it's very cool that they even have any detail in there at all. So kudos to Bandai for going that far. And I'm going to get together the accessories here. And it's everyone's favorite weapon, which is the GN sword. I don't know what number it is right now, because I don't remember. This is the Exia's GN sword here. In the ignition mode, I believe it comes with this chrome-like finish, which is amazing. You could probably accomplish this with, maybe some... silver marker, like metallic marker of like some sort. You can maybe get something similar to this, but this comes out of the box that way. And I think that this is just the most fantastic part about Exia, is just the big, huge blade it has. It's just the well-known part of Exia that everyone knows. Moving along here to keep the video moving here. We have the inside. And that's also a chrome part there too. And there's some detail there. On the Exia's ignition mode, you can swap that white part out for a battle damaged one that comes in the box. And on the inside, this is able to kind of like fold backwards in some form or way. Remember, I'm on my phone here. So you can also do like that. I believe that could just be for wielding it as sword in hand or something like that. So I think that might be what that might be there for. I don't fully know. This is the area where the GN drive connects, and the connection here is not as strong as it is on the Shield. So it will pop off, which is very disappointing because this is the heaviest aspect of Exia. So unlike the Shield, which comes in a very stable way with that connector, the actual, the GN sword here, or the GN blade, whatever you want to call it, it just pops in with that one part that will clamp at the edge of it. And it's just not nearly enough. The Shield will take over the weight, and it will want to pull off of there, and it'll want to fly out of there, and it'll come crashing down to the ground. That's another thing that is about this kit, is that this big, huge accessory just cannot be supported. And I just thought that since there was already a pre-installed hole, I just thought that they had an easy way out of that. They did it really good on the Shield here. I don't know. I just wish they would have used that same connector or some variant of that. And the connectors aren't compatible. At least it's not as far as I could tell. I wanted to use this connector and swap them, but it's not going to go that way. So that's one key thing to note. You might have to, I don't know, do some sticky tack. You might have to, I don't know, deepen the hole. I don't know if you can do that. Or, you know, if you're never going to take it off there, you can maybe just glue it in there, or something like that. So that is one thing to note about the unit. So, you know, part of having Exia is just having that sword in display like that. And so it's going to have some struggles with that, which is a very unfortunate part about this kit. Okay, so you can actually display this as, you know, being held up like a traditional sword. And, you know, we're not going to get into a whole conversation about Gundam hands, but, you know, if you wanted to kind of get this and use it as a traditional kind of like sword in hand, it does have a mode for that. And that is a implied peg hole where you can put it in the hand, but let's be real, if it can't hold the shield in the GN cable area that it had, it's not going to hold on the inside of the palm, not with all this weight. It's not going to work. And that's what it looks like whenever you are, you know, sword in hand mode. I don't know what mode that's called. And I do like the fact that the actual pistol area connects with the chrome piecing as part of the end cannon model there. I just think it's great how there is just the straight line of chrome there, despite the fact that that is an actual pistol. So I thought that was a very good way to hide the fact that it does that. And, you know, a lot of people out there say this is the coolest thing about Exia. It's just its weapon. It's just that 2-mode weapon where it's a gun and it flips backwards, and then it's just like this big, huge cleaving weapon. Things like this are going to bother you about Exia. And then there's a hole where that handle can slide into. So that's very good. And of course, here's my silly attempt at putting all the accessories here like I know what I'm doing. This is one of the GN Katars. Once again, it has the peg hole for connecting into the side of the skirt armor, which will fall out. Sorry, not sorry, it's going to fall out. And it has this same chrome accents there that I think are very, very cool. I believe that's the GN Katar 1. I don't know if there's a 1 or if there's a 2. So you're just going to have to forgive me. You know, like I said, I'll make a much better video if, you know, someone out there on the internet even sees this. There's the other one. They're exactly the same, I believe. They're just one's longer than the other. Now, as far as the ignition mode is concerned, there's other things that, you know, there's other things in that box, and I think there's some other people out there who've already shown that. When it comes to Exia ignition mode, you can't really disassemble that and put it back together. You can, but I think it would be a huge pain in the butt to really do it that way. So really, it's kind of like you have the option of either one or the other, and I don't think anywhere in there does it imply that you should take it apart and resort it again. So these are the main accessories that are in the box, besides what's already connected to Exia, which are the GN beam sabers, which is just a regular beam saber. So nothing too out of the ordinary about that. So they're not, you know, included on this video because you already saw them on the back, and it's just like any other, you know, GN beam sword. If it makes you feel better, that's what they look like. And I'll attempt to get everything on Exia as well as I can without wanting to jump off of a cliff, because that is the issue with Exia. So now I'm going to put my phone down while I do that, because this is a ghetto review. So I can see what the internet will do. Normally I would not put that here in that way. So this is a very low effort kind of kind of ordeal. As you can hear there, Exia is just falling completely to completely to pieces, as it is known to do. And what's taking forever is the sword will not get into that lodge on his arm, as I mentioned before. So he's having great difficulty with that, and I thought that was going to be quick, how I put that in here, and it wasn't. So apologies to whoever is watching this, if anyone is. I'm here for a long time, not a good time. Okay, the accessories I didn't bother to put on there because, as I mentioned before, they're just going to pop right back off again. It has to get into a little, you squeeze in that, that plate right there, and then there's a connector which by pressure or force holds in to the inside of that socket, and it's just not good. So I'm not even gonna bother trying to display it that way, and that's very unfortunate for a kit like Exia. This should give you some semblance of an idea of what Exia will look like just standing up with at least the blade, which is the main reason I think people buy this to display it like. The main reason that you would really want this, I think, would be to have really cool poses with Exia. Sometimes I like mine just to stand there, particularly when they have really cool weapons like Exia does. And I do believe there's a scene where they're in the Platomayos, or however you pronounce that, and there's Exia standing there with the big, huge, massive blade, and they're explaining the secret function of this blade, which I won't spoil in case you haven't seen this show. And as you can see here, I'm kind of using that that GN beam saber there to hold that in place there. I want to keep that thing up. So, and as you can see here, the feet are not loving this. But when you can actually get that thing in the arm, it will stay there. That's how that connection works that I spoke of earlier. When it comes to Double Ariser and Exia, I don't even bother trying to connect it into the hand. The idea is that you connect it there on the actual forearm, and then you would have the inside of the hand connect the handle of the pistol, and that causes the pistol to kind of need to pull in backwards a little bit more, and it just starts a very rigorous process of trying to get the shoulder connection, or the arm connection, stay in place, and then the hand connection and the notch to stay in place, and it just throws everything out of whack. It's possible to get there, but most people don't even bother. Most people don't even close the actual hand, and I almost never do on 00 models. So there is the actual sword there of Exia just standing there, and that thing is just freaking awesome. Almost as big as Exia itself. And to give you an idea about the LED, now that looks very nice. And when you have this LED on, the reflection can kind of reflect off of that that GN Buster Sword, or whatever you want to call that. It can reflect off of that, and it really brings to home that that thing is reflective and that it's chrome. So I think that's very, very cool. And then on the inside, it does a really good job of showing that articulation. I feel like that's spinning even though it's not, so I think that's a very good kind of like a visual trick. Your eye kind of fills in the blanks a little bit with your imagination. And then there's Exia from the front. My LED is a little faded, as I mentioned before. Usually this LED would be so bright that you wouldn't be able to see the text on there, but I figured I would use this opportunity to zoom in on it so that you can see that the text is there. You might not be able to read it, And in real life, you can barely read it. But you can make out the fact that it says celestial being there. Anyways, that concludes my test video for potential Gundam reviews in the future. I tend to like mine more a little bit close up than I think a lot of people did, so I decided that I would go ahead and just do that myself, because I like to see every little inch and facet and detail of a kit before I buy it. I like to pretend like it's mine already, and that really helps me to do that. If you did happen to see this video and you like the potential that it might have, you know, like it or something, comment or something. You don't even really have to subscribe, because this isn't really the channel that I would put this on if I did do this. But if you do see it, drop a comment and let me know that, hey, I saw this thing, and, you know, hey, I wouldn't mind having an up-close review. Yeah. And this is usually the part where I say this was whoever signing out, but you know what? That doesn't even matter yet. So bye.